So this is part 5, I believe. Part... I won't do it for you. I got to get in a comfortable position. Okay. What is this? Oh. Hey guys. Welcome. Oh, come on. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. I just got out of breath from doing that. Okay. So this is part 5. Part 5 of the Crusades from Dr. Roy. Is it Casagrande? Sure, I've heard it. Never remember. So let's get into this right now.
The guy who's now the son of Suleiman I, his name is Khalid Arslan. He decides he's got to get rid of these guys. And they want to take Nicaea. So Nicaea is pronounced Nicaea. I'm going to not say Nicaea again for the rest of the lecture. It drives me nuts. It's like Julius Caesar is Gaius Julius Caesar. Stop saying Julius Caesar. I feel like it could be a salad dressing or something. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be the name of that guy. Nicaea was the capital for the Sultanate of Rome. So they actually put it like...
Caesar salad is a delicious salad, by the way.
Almost across from Constantinople. And the reason is because that's their goal. It's Constantinople. They're nowhere near capturing it. They know that. But that's still, it's nice to have a goal, even if it's a far off one. And so they've got I did it. Nicaea. It's like poison. And the mob, the peasant mob, the People's Crusade as it's called, thinks it's going to capture Nicaea, and Khalid Arslan basically sets up an ambush for them and slaughters them. And that's the end of the People's Crusade for the most part. By the way, some of the leadership got away, because of course that's how that usually works out. In any case, the real Crusader army doesn't show up until the next year. The real Crusader army is a mixture of nobles from across France and Germany primarily, but also Italy, because there's Normans coming. So for our purposes, there's a bunch of Crusaders. There's too many names, so I'm just gonna simplify it a little bit. The Crusaders you need to know about are Bohemond of Taranto, not Canada, but Italy. And then his nephew, Tancred, and Godfrey de Bouillon, and Baldwin de Boulogne. Baldwin and Godfrey are both from northern France. They weren't actually Normans, but they had definitely sided with the Normans. Their father, Eustace II, in fact, was with William the Conqueror in 1066 when the Normans decided to also conquer England. The Normans were very busy people. Right? Oh, let's go to Spain. You know what? Southern Italy, Anatolia, England. In other words, long after the Vikings started speaking French, they're still tearing up the planet. They're on this like permanent multi-century rampage. And it wasn't enough for them that they had captured England already twice. They wanted it a third time. They're like, it was good real estate. We want it back. And they've got it. And so when Godfrey and Baldwin go on this crusade, they're not actually Normans, but they're part of the Norman sphere. So in a way, the top 4 of the 5 most important crusaders are Normans. The 5th guy is a guy named Raymond. He's Raymond of Toulouse, also known as Raymond Saint-Gilles. He was Raymond IV of Toulouse. And they show up, and Alexius, there's also Hugh de Vermandois, there's a few other guys, but I just want you to know those 5. They show up at Constantinople, and they swear an oath of fealty. Well, not Tancred, he refuses. He wants nothing to do with this. And what they promise is that all the land they capture will be handed to Alexius Comnenus, the Roman emperor. And of course, they're lying through their teeth. They have no intention whatsoever of handing anything over. Their goal is to go in there, carve off land, and make their own little personal fiefdoms. They cross over the Bosporus with the Roman navy. It's 1097. Khalid Arslan isn't there to greet them. He's in southern Turkey fighting another Turk. And the reason is that Turk was trying to capture a city from an Armenian, Malatya, and Khalid Arslan was worried if Danishmen captured Malatya, it would weaken his position. So even though he's got this crusader threat on the west, he's so focused on his rivals that he's actually fighting them. He turns around when he realizes the crusaders have landed. He goes as fast as he can. By the time he gets there, Nicaea has already fallen. He convinces other Turks in the area to fight alongside him. They fight the crusaders at Dorylaeum, and they're defeated. And Khalid Arslan has to withdraw, and they just watch as the crusader army passes. The crusader army then goes through Armenia. So when the Roman Empire lost Anatolia, a piece of the Roman Empire broke away and didn't get captured by the Muslims and remained its own separate thing. It's oftentimes called Lesser Armenia. It was a little Armenian kingdom on what is today the southern coast of Turkey. And so the Crusaders arrived there. Tancred was the kind of guy who would look at a situation and he would size it up real quick. He decides to basically conquer it. And he just goes and grabs all the strategic points in Lesser Armenia. And the process, he's running into Balduin. Balduin has the same idea, but he's a little slower, so he keeps arriving after Tancred has done this. And the problem then is, Balduin has the bigger army, so he shows up, and Tancred has a problem. Do I fight my fellow crusader, who's basically telling me he's taking my thing from me, or do I walk away? So the first time he walks away, the second time he fights. The crusaders have barely started the crusade, and they're already fighting each other. Not many people died, for the record. I want to say it was like 2 guys died, and few dozen are wounded, and then they call off the fight and they negotiate and they make a deal. But still, you can see there's already problems. They get over the mountains, the Tarsus Mountains, and they arrive at Antioch. Antioch is the first prize. So Antioch had only just been captured by the Muslims in 1084. So by the time that the Crusaders have arrived, it's 1098. They set up a siege. But Baldwin decides, not interested, and he takes off to the east, and he goes to a city called Edessa, and he puts Edessa under, he tries to capture Edessa. He doesn't put it under siege. He tries to capture Edessa, and Edessa was ruled by Armenians. And so Baldwin goes to the Armenians, and he starts.
Odessa, is that in Ukraine? Is that the city that he's referring to, which is controlled by Armenians? It doesn't seem like any of these crusaders are really, they're all going for one reason, but they're all actually going for their own reasons.
Working out a deal with them. The leader of the Armenians in Edessa was a guy named Thoros. And Baldwin talks Thoros into adopting him and then letting him marry Thoros' daughter, so that he will become now the heir to Edessa. And Thoros goes, okay. Well, Armenian culture was that when you, presumably, one of the chroniclers says this, I'm not sure it's actually true. That's one of the problems you always have when you're reading historical accounts. You're always like, did that really happen? According to the chronicler, Armenian culture was when you got adopted, your adoptive father and mother wore a really big gown, and then you would take off your top, you'd have pants on, and then you would crawl under the gown, but they're completely naked under, and you hug them. Anyway, so apparently that's what Baldwin did with his Thoros and his wife. And then he waited around for a while until a mob grabbed Thoros and his wife and hanged them. And that's the birth of the first Crusader state. We now have the county of Edessa. Balduin is the first Crusader lord to rule a chunk of territory. I think it was May 1098. In the meantime, the siege in Antioch is still going on. Bohemond is the guy who wants Antioch for himself, but so does Raimond. So there's now two crusaders both pushing for it, but the problem is they still got to capture it first. They haven't captured it. The guy who was the ruler of Antioch was a guy named Yarisian. And Yarisian starts putting out feelers to see if he can get help to break the Crusader siege. And there's two guys nearby. There's the guy who's running Damascus, because even though they're part of the Seljuk Empire is already coming apart at the seams. The Seljuk warlords don't like each other, they don't cooperate, they see each other as rivals, they're constantly backstabbing each other. And the guy in charge of Damascus is a guy named Dukak. And Dukak's brother, Ridwan, is the guy in charge of Aleppo. They hate each other's guts. They see each other as rivals. So Yarisian sends for help from Dukak. Dukak takes an army, and he has to go past Aleppo, right? And he's coming up past Aleppo. He gets to line of sight of the Crusader army. He panics, he turns around, and he heads back to Damascus. So Yarisian is like, oh, what do? I guess I have to talk to Ridwan, but he doesn't want anything to do with Ridwan, because Ridwan has a group of allies that he didn't like, the Hashishans. The Hashishans were Shia who decided they didn't like the direction Islam was going in. Sunnis were systematically winning. The Seljuks were Sunnis. And the Seljuks had replaced the Buyids, who were Shia, and they had been defeating the Fatimids, not replaced them. The Fatimids were also Shia. And so there is this guy, Hassan al-Sabah, who decides he wants to take a different approach to fight for the Shia cause. And that different approach is he's going to get into political intrigue, spying, and assassinating people. And Hashishin is where we get the word assassin from. Now, whether or not they use...
There's always little nuggets of information that are always cool.
...used hashish, we don't really know. That could have been the chroniclers trying to make a story up. In any case, Hassan al-Sabah's followers were total fanatics. And Ridwan, the ruler of Aleppo, was totally into them, and they were friends, and they were working together. And so this scares Yarisian, so he doesn't really want anything to do with this. He asks Ridwan to send an army, and Ridwan does pretty much the same thing Dukak does, and nothing comes of it. So Yarisian realizes he's running out of food, he's running out of time, but so are the Crusaders. The Crusaders are literally starving to death. They've been traveling for months. It's a year now, and they're running out of supplies, and they've been slaughtering their horses along the way for food purposes. They're down to like 800 horses, and probably half the Crusader army is already gone by this point. Some of them died, some of them got sick, some of them broke a leg, some of them just were like, you know what, I don't need this. And they turned around and they headed home. So now, Yarisian inside Antioch is desperate because he's trying to figure out how he's going to get through this. And the Crusaders like Bohemond and Raimond are trying to figure out how they're going to get in the walls. And at that point, another guy jumps into the story. And the other guy is the ruler of Mosul, Karbuka. Karbuka, this Yarisian convinces Karbuka to come with an army. But Karbuka has to pass Edessa on the way. And he's looking at Edessa and he goes, this Balduin has it, I want it. And so he stops his army for 3 weeks. He parks it outside of Edessa. And then he decides he can't take it. And so he abandons the siege and he heads to Antioch. But by the time he gets to Antioch, his generals are working against him. And so there's all this intrigue going on before he even gets to Antioch. But even though he's still heading to Antioch, it's kind of too late. Because in the meantime, because he took so long, because he added those 3 weeks, there was a guy named Firuz. Firuz was accused of dealing on the black market, even though he knew and was a friend of Yarisian. And so he gets charged a heavy fine. He's so furious about this that he decides to betray his own people. Firuz tells the Crusaders, I'm going to let you in to the city. The Crusaders are like, why would we believe you? This is probably a trap. He goes, I'm going to give you my son. If it's a trap, kill my son. Crusaders are like, really? Okay. Why are you doing this? He goes, I want land, gold, and vengeance. They go, okay. We can give you all three of those. And so in the night, he had access to a window that looked out over the walls. And he just dropped a really long rope down, and the Crusaders came up the rope, one at a time, until there were about 500 guys inside the city, and they began fighting for the gate. Yarician hears the sound.
How long would it have taken for 500 men to climb up a rope? How far was the climb? I mean, you're not knocking that out in 15 to 20 minutes.
He panics, he jumps on a horse, and he rides off. He leaves his son and wife and family behind. He just takes off. He doesn't even assess the situation. He just figures, it's over, I'm out of here. He rides for days. He finally collapses from riding. His entourage try to put him back on the horse. They can't get him back on the horse. He's like having a depression bout or something. He just lays on the side of the road. A peasant walks by, recognizes who he is, cuts his head off, and takes it to the Crusaders.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and... I found that the best time to pause is typically right after a peasant beheads someone of importance. I mean, that'll do it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wee, wow. Okay, so we're going to end this here. There's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. You can request videos if you donate. You can request videos if you don't want to donate. It just takes longer to get to those over the donator request. They get moved top priority. Subscribe. Click the bell because that notifies you when there are things to notify you for. I don't know how it works, but I get in trouble by other subscribers. Oh, yeah. It is Sunday the 10th. And I'll start the next video by showing this, and you're not going to be able to read it, but I now have 2,005 subscribers. It's awesome. It took me 17 months to reach 1,000, and then 4.5 months to reach 2,000. And I'm gaining about 100 a week now, which is crazy, because I remember being in a span for a few months where I was picking up 4 to 6. Well, at one time, I was picking up about 4 to 6 a month. Then I thought that was crazy when it became 4 to 6 subscribers, like every 2 weeks. And then I lost it when I had like 5 subscribers in a week. I was like, what the hell? That's ridiculous. And now I just, every morning I'll just look and it's like, oh, it jumped 10 from last night or whatever. It's just kind of crazy how it just snowballs. So I'm expecting to hit 3,000. And this is all on you. It has nothing to do with me. I'm expecting to hit 3,000 by January 1st. If you can't get it done, then per YouTube rules, because I can mandate it, per YouTube rules, every subscriber, as of right now, 2,005 of you, owes me $50. And, I mean, that's a law. It's a world law. Interpol enforces it. Pakistan police force enforces it. It's, you know, this is big. It's important. So, if you believe that, then go ahead and send me the monies. But I'm going to end the video now. And you can't lie on YouTube, so that's a fact. I'm going to end the video now before I lie more.